Hey everyone, welcome to MLSsoccer.com's Brazil Bound, presented by Castrol GTX High Mileage. I'm Greg Lawless alongside former U.S. national team assistant coach Jesse Marsh, and we're continuing our series of breaking down the U.S. run at the World Cup, our post-mortem here. And Jesse, in this episode, we're going to talk about the good and the bad, what went right and what went wrong. Give me a quick overview of that a little bit.
Yeah, well, the number one positive for me was the results. And ultimately now a team and a manager and a staff, you're judged by your results. So the fact that they emerged from the group of death was a major accomplishment, no question about that. And then, you know, they took Belgium to extra time, and in the end it was a 2-1 match. So
it's a Belgian team.
Yes, very good Belgian team. You know, so in some ways those are all decent results.
And I also think we should look at what happened back home in the United States, the excitement that was built out of this. There was a lot of drama, and that was a very good thing. What about a quick overview on something that maybe didn't go the way you would hope?
Well, I would start with the roster selection, okay? And I would look at it, and now anytime you're putting the roster together, you really have to think of, okay, what if a guy goes down with cards? What if a guy goes down with injuries? And how do we supplement what we get from that guy with somebody else? Mm-hmm. And so now when Jozy Altidore goes down early in the first game, there's not really an answer on the roster for that. So I think that there's questions about whether it was Eddie Johnson or Terrence Boyd to still have the kind of presence up the field to help balance out our team and let Clint Dempsey do what he does best, let Michael Bradley do what he does best. And we never really got that, and we had to change the way we played, and it was a major factor in how we played in the rest of the tournament. Right. Then next, for me, you would have to go back to the Landon Donovan decision. And as much as I don't want to go there, we have to.
But we have to. I mean,
yes.
It's impossible not to, especially now after the fact when we look back at this.
Yes, and when you look at the Belgian game in particular, and now it's the 65th, 70th minute, and that game is such where maybe we're getting pushed back a little bit and we're defending well, and Timmy Howard's standing on his head, can we then now find a way to pick off a ball in midfield and now exploit them on the counter? And the guy that's best at that is Landon Donovan. And so not just in his mobility, but in his decision-making in these little situations on when to slip a ball, when to take a guy on, when to hit a shot, and then, you know, and then purely physically his ability to now test their other team's back line, and we never did that.
And execution, of course, is something that Landon was always very good. All right, let's turn to tactics now. Let's look at the tactical things. What went right and what went wrong in this?
Well, again, I think Jozy going down changes a lot of the tactics for the tournament and now your ability to play the way you want. If I'm looking at the good, I would say that for the most part, okay, they only gave up chances from the wings. So they made teams go wide, and then the only option at that point was to put balls in the box, and that played into the strength of some of our center backs. And then our back line our midfield line did a good job of compressing to make sure that none of the opposing team's midfielders picked up any loose balls. But fundamentally, we were forced back so much, and so much of it was due to the fact that defensively, I don't think there was a real clear understanding as to how guys wanted to play with each other and play off of each other. So sometimes now plays would start to happen, and guys some of our players were following the opposing team's players when they should have passed them on. Sometimes they were passing them on when they should have been following them. And I don't think that the relationships, the tactical defensive relationships, were very well understood for the players, and they were left on their own now to sort of come up with their own solutions.
Yeah, and I think also when you look at that, so much against Belgium came down to second balls, and the Belgians always seemed to be in those spaces where they could pick up that second ball, and that goes back to tactics as well. It's not just they're lucky to be in that position.
Agreed. And then even now with the ball, okay, some of it was that there weren't options ahead of the ball, but so many of the midfielders, I think, would get balls and were unsure where they were on the field, were unsure where their teammates were on the field, were unsure of what the next play and the rhythm and the understanding of the movements and how we wanted to use all of our players on the field and the options. So that comes down to tactics and understanding. And a lot of times with the ball, guys were getting in each other's way, you know? So the spacing, the movement, the ideas, the cleanliness, you know, that wasn't good enough, and a lot of that had to do with the tactical arrangement.
All right, well, last thing, let's get to any other factors that you think went well or maybe didn't go so well in this one.
Yeah, you'd have to still look at the physical preparation that went into the tournament. And there was a show that we did early on when some of the hamstrings started to pop up, and I had spoken to Pierre Berrieux. And his comment to me was that he doesn't believe in coincidences, that there aren't coincidences in the physical part of what goes into preparing a team. And so the fact that you had the same kind of injuries pop up certainly is a red flag.
Hamstrings a lot.
Yeah.
Josie Altidore with a hamstring, Beasler with his hamstring issues, and of course Fabian Johnson in the Belgium game.
And you know, there's other factors in there and travel and everything else, but I look back to 2002, 2006, and 2010 when Pierre Berrieux was spearheading our fitness program, and I felt like in those 3 tournaments, our team was one of the most fit teams in the tournament, and there was even data that proved that. And so, you know, that's an important part for our team to get right, and I'm not sure that really worked out in our favor this time.
All right, well, those are some things that went right, some things that maybe didn't go right. Let us know what you actually think went right and wrong for the U.S. team in the comments below. You can also hit us up on Twitter. Use the hashtag BrazilBound. That's it for this episode of MLSsoccer.com's BrazilBound, presented by Castrol GTX High Mileage. I'm Greg Lawless. He's Jesse Marsh. Make sure you check out the full series of our U.S. team Post-Mortem.